How are you doing? It's always tough to have a talk just after lunch, and I have been given this ultimate responsibility to keep you awake so that you survive the lunch dip. And let's see if I can make that happen today. So let me start with something I got, a mail that I got last week from ING Communication. And they're working on a campaign which will be published soon on our website, ing.com. And it posed a question on whether you have something called as a banker of the future. Now, this mail puzzled me a bit, but it had two questions which interested me. So the question was, would you consider yourself to be a banker? And what are you working on at this moment? So before I tell you the answers I gave to this publication, I would like to take you back 4 years and hopefully get your comments on what the answers which I gave are fitting to a publication like that or not. So hopefully that will keep you 20 minutes awake into this talk. And yeah, it's weird to receive such a publication. And what's even more weird is a mail I received 2 weeks back, which said, I was at your presentation 2 years ago on APIs and service blueprinting. We didn't do much with it then, but now I think we have time and space to make that happen in our tribe. So 2 years, really? I mean, this should give you an idea of how big an organization ING is. So after being there 4 years, I still am surprised by the mails I get, but that also gives me a challenge that I haven't been able to fathom the space, the enormous enterprise that we are dealing with here. And this was from a product owner in the Netherlands in the same unit I work in. So it took 2 years for him to come with this question. I might be doing something totally different by now. I am not, but it's amazing to see how something you have talked about so long ago had made a difference, and now it's actually becoming business as usual. So I have to take you back 4 years to set you on this journey, which we call from API design, from API doing to API thinking. So the journey begins for me in 2013. That's where I decided to join ING. I was really excited. My boss, Henk Kolk, told me about these wonderful things ING wants to be doing in the future, wanted to become a tech company, wanted to do DevOps, wanted to reduce time taken from going from development to production, wanted to do APIs. Everything sounded really great, and I thought, okay, that sounds like a great place to work for. And then I was at this onboarding session within a couple of days of me joining the company. And there I was in my jeans in a room full of people wearing not jeans, but suits. So I said, hey, what happened? I heard this great story about how we were becoming a tech company, or we were already a tech company. Are we wearing suits? So it was really weird to be in that onboarding session. And I still remember the IT innovation lead gave this nice presentation on how we are going to change banking. And he asked this question, who is from IT? And everybody knew who was from IT. Those were the two people in the jeans there in the corner. And we very sheepishly raised our hands. And the guy said, great, welcome you, especially because you are the future. And I'm like, oh, what just happened? So this guy was really serious when he said that ING wanted to become a tech company with a banking license. And that's where it hit me, that maybe I did not make the completely wrong choice of joining this company, which looked like a bank then, at least the people around me, but they were on this verge of making this big transformation. So that gave me hope. And the hope it gave me was because I was listening to all these podcasts and reading blog posts about Silicon Valley companies who are changing the way business is done. And they're not changing the way software is made, but they're changing the way how the industry works and how we do retail or how we do music, how we stream this, how we have access to this. So tech companies changing the face of business. And it was all very miraculous and wonderful to hear. But at the same time, being in the Netherlands, I'm like, why aren't we doing something like that? So at ING, I felt, okay, maybe this is the place we can experiment and see if we can be one of those Silicon Valley companies, right? So the ability to make that difference gave me real hope. And yeah, then you are in a big enterprise, and you say, where do you start? Right? So do I pick up DevOps, or do I do APIs, or continuous delivery? The challenges ahead, or the transformation we wanted to do, was so immense, big, that me, a tiny person at this company, had actually no idea where to start. And this was this time where I was, the opportunity is so big, and at the same time have no idea where to start. This gives a very weird feeling if you have just joined something like that. And then my boss came back to me and said, hey, you have some experience with REST and APIs, so maybe you can start with that, because we want to move towards an architecture which is loosely coupled, which decouples our front end and back end, and APIs might be candidates for doing just that. So he organized this nice API community meeting. I still remember. It was in December 2013, so it was just weeks after I had joined. And it was a group like this: engineers, his manager friends, and some other people I didn't know. Most people I didn't know, I would say. And so this whole discussion happened on whether we should do APIs or not. And there was this, so the discussion happened for like half an hour, and people were like, APIs, they're not that different to web services, so why bother? We have this nice service-oriented architecture we are running here. Why do APIs? There is actually no difference. We can do whatever we are doing right now with the architecture we have. And it felt like it's not just the first API community meeting, but the last one. It was, so I was sitting there, I'm like, something is not right here. So, and just joined the company, I said, okay, maybe I shouldn't open my mouth in front of all the highly intelligent people who have been there years. But still, I couldn't see the whole negativity in the room for APIs. So I opened my mouth, took a lot of courage to do that, and said, APIs are different than web services. And then people asked, how? And I said something like, APIs are designed outside in. And then there was this silence in the room. And I was like, okay, what did I just say? Outside in? Is that a term they have never heard before? And this guy asked me the question, what is outside in? I said, that's an answer I have been preparing for 3 years by then. Outside in is designing something from the perspective of the user. And that's a new thing, because that's not how we designed our web services. So that one statement made this whole meeting go from no APIs to maybe we should consider it. Just a statement, outside in. So, and within 10 minutes in, I was explaining customer journeys and service blueprints and design thinking and all kinds of stuff. And at that moment, I thought, oh, I should have shut up 10 minutes back, because it was clearly words I was using which had never been heard of in the space I was using them in. And that's the same guy who asked me the outside-in question, asked me, customer journeys, hey, wait a minute, I know about them. We make them. So our business, so that was a time where the business and IT was separate. So separate that we had a building full of business people and a building full of IT people. So that's separate, and separated with kilometers where you had to take a train to go and meet the business. So that's separate. Said, yeah, the business people create customer journeys. And I said, oh, they do? I was just hunching upon customer journeys. And he said, no, they do, and we use them to come up with product ideas and to come up with features. I said, may I have a look at them? And he said, why? Yeah, to design APIs outside in. That's exactly, and somehow he got the message that an artifact which was so widely used in business could be a very important artifact when you come to designing APIs from the perspective of your customer. So that's when he started seeing APIs as possibly the integration between business and technology. So that was a huge thing, because that was the first time I ever saw a customer journey artifact made by ING. Until then, I was using Rail Europe and Adaptive Path and those kind of examples to show what they are. So we had them, only the tech people did not know we had them. That was a big change. So this first API community meeting ended, and a day later I found out who that guy was who asked me those questions. He was the head of the department. And I said, oh, oh crap. My heart sank, and I thought I'll never come back to this office again, and I've been very rude. And so, yeah, I avoided him for like months after that meeting. Yeah, it was very uneasy to be in a situation where, yeah, so it was not very nice to come back every day to office. And then my manager said, don't lose heart. He gave me another opportunity to talk about REST and Hypermedia at the second API community meeting. So it did happen. So here I was explaining Roy Fielding's constraints and Hypermedia and how API should be developed with all that constraints in mind. And there was a lot of energy. So the initial pushback was turning to skepticism, was not really a pushback. So people wanted to understand what REST could mean and what that architecture could look like. So things were moving, and those were great couple of months. Came another opportunity where my manager said, oh, why don't you capture that on a video online, and we'll put it on our site, and people can watch your presentation later. I said, okay. And again, uneasy times, and because I had never made a webcast before then. And it turns out ING hadn't either. So there was this whole mix of people who were making the webcast and me giving the presentation, and it was the first for us both. And it really felt like a startup where you could dare to experiment, you could dare to do new things. I really liked the energy we had during those months, because in spite of the huge size, it did not feel like that. It felt that you could make a difference. These webcasts paved the way to introduction to API trainings. So this is a classroom training, 3 hours, which me and my colleague Ron, I think, gave for 2 years before we stopped with them. So we trained, I think, 1,200 people over 2 years in APIs and how they're changing the business, how the whole world is changing around us, and how we can use them at our company. Initially, we got a lot of pushback because we gave this to a technical crowd, and we had a web services architecture. It was no way people were going to have a message like this accepted that easily. But what we had running for us, going for us, was management support. We had management who said, no, we are going to do APIs. It's for the good. And let's see if we can get enough people to start making them. So the first trainings which we got across to questions like this. Some people were actually amazed that we came all the way to Arnhem. So our headquarters are in Amsterdam, and to go to Arnhem, it's again a train ride, takes an hour. And so people in Arnhem called us the Ivory Tower, because no one had come to Arnhem. So this training became this vehicle to meet the company. So through APIs, meeting different people, understanding how they work. And the other quote comes from Leeuwarden. That's also something which is very far and a train ride. But yeah, skepticism. Why do we need APIs? And yeah, we had this whole technical pushback, and still we sustained with our message, and more people started building APIs. And and we had this first APIs being made, and then we hit this new bottleneck. We didn't have an infrastructure ready to make APIs. We didn't have a gateway. We didn't have a way to discover them. We didn't have a service discovery. With all kinds of new problems which we did not know when we just sat doing APIs came into play. And then we said, okay, we need to make it easier for teams to build APIs. That's where, so the whole role from giving trainings shifted to making these components, to making a portal, to making a directory, to making a service discovery. This is the team I was a part of. I was a product owner of this team. And a whole new set of problems to roll out functionality, to actually going from talking about APIs to building the platform. Whole different set of rules played a role here. But it was an amazing time to build a technical product like the API platform, and having a product owner who was not from the typical business, an IT product owner. Really, really great times, and this really caught on because the story up till now was the Netherlands. This whole initiative of APIs went global. So it was not just APIs in the Netherlands and an API-based architecture here, but ING wanted to do this globally, to roll this out globally, which meant new people, new countries, new ideas. Some of them are sitting right there. If you look at my team now, we have people from 4 different countries. So it's amazing how this story has worked out. And I thought this is a great moment to hand it over to the new flesh, new blood, and do something else. And this is where I joined another team which focused on design thinking. So I wanted to explore how design would look like and what design could mean for technology. What happened then? Yeah, then we decided to come back to APIs. And funnily enough, through a design thinking workshop, I mean, Zafar would nod his head here. We did a design thinking workshop with the API team to understand what are their biggest problems at this moment in this global spread of APIs. And the problem was API design. So the problem was, how do we design APIs consistently such that they are beautiful? How do we design them outside in? So the very question we had in the beginning, we should design them outside in, was now a point where we can make that happen. So we said, okay, let's join the team again and find out what are the kind of questions we are dealing with now. And this is this year, 2017, so 4 years after we started. And we are getting very different questions now. So APIs are sold. We don't need to sell them again. No one is asking, do we need to do APIs? People are asking, how? So our questions are becoming more thinking questions. So what are the thinking tools we need? What kind of toolbox do we need to design them better, faster, more consistent? A lot of thinking questions. And so we in our team, which is called API Design and Governance now, are thinking about how do we help, how do we scale our API thinking toolbox to a multitude that is called ING. Only now, after 4 years, I think we know a trick or two, which we learned in this past journey. I started my presentation with this one. I hope you still remember it. The banker of the future. The 2 questions which were posed were those. And I answered them as, for the first one, yes, I consider myself as a banker. People have always needed banking and not banks. I believe technology and design have the potential to provide just that. I do not wear business suits. I'm a banker who can program, design, and create. I like my coffee in black and in single shorts. Maybe I'm a bit different than the stereotypes in our heads. And for the second question, I wrote, I'm working on making ING a successful 21st century company through APIs and platforms. APIs allow software to talk. And specifically, I work on how we design our APIs and how we think about our platforms. I consider myself an API thinker. And I think that has been my journey from API doing to API thinking. So I'd end by saying, even though you are very tiny in a big place, have courage, you can make a big difference. Thank you.